everyone. Welcome back to the Gallagher Shots YouTube channel. My name's Andy. I know what you're thinking. Scott's got a lot less handsome and less Geordie. That's because he's letting the rabble take over today. We're looking ahead to the Brentford game on Saturday. This is already a more positive preview than the last one because we were all absolutely down in the dumps thinking we were going to get slapped against Liverpool last week, or earlier in the week.
What are you on
Here we
about,
are.
man? We all predicted wins. Didn't we?
Hey, I tell you what, someone, and I think it might have been Daryl down the bottom there, said he's expecting a 3-3 Man City-esque game. I think that was you, and I wish you'd put some money on it because that was an
The
absolute
Oracle.
blinder. Yeah.
Was it me? To be fair, I think it was actually the
Take
man
the
who's
credit.
absent. It was no, I'm not taking the credit for it. It was Scott. He said it would be 3-2 to Liverpool. So he was probably the closest out of all of us.
Did.
You'd have been fuming when
To
he
be fair,
slid that one.
I know. To be fair, result aside, I think we all pretty much predicted that it was going to be a really good game and we're putting a class performance. We just thought that Liverpool's quality might edge it, but so good to come back. And I know this isn't a Liverpool reaction; we've got that already on the channel, but it just to reflect on it, it's just so good to see. So good to see us like fighting back and that intensity back. Obviously, it's a completely different game to what we're going to see against Brentford. Although, actually, to be fair, saying that, I feel like Brentford.
I don't think it will be.
I don't know if it will. I know I'm kind of contradicting myself here. I actually don't know if it will because the way that Brentford seem to be playing, similar to us in a bit of a 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3, whatever it is, but the high pressing, they try and take on a lot of tackles in the final third. I'll save the commentator stats because I know that I think Daryl's got a few for us, but they're not doing too bad and similar to us on the table, so it could be quite a decent match. This one,
Well, yeah, let's get into it, Daryl. So Brentford at the minute, they're level on points with us, but they've scored 10 more goals. And I had a quick flick through the fixtures. They've had some blinding fixtures so far. I think they've had a 5-3, a 4-3.
Yeah.
And they were sort of the team of defensive consistency a year or two ago, and now they're just the mad team. But you've got some stats from the few times we've played them so far.
Yeah. So it's funny you mentioned their record this season. It's really it's almost a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde sort of thing because they haven't won that many on the road, but their home record's absolutely outstanding. Now we'll come back to that in a little bit more detail in just a second. So very quickly, the last couple of times that we've played them. So last season's fixtures were a 4-2 win at Brentford on the final day of the season last season. Lovely afternoon in May, where we thought it was Europe again, but it wasn't quite. Thank you, Man United in the FA Cup. But it was a lovely day out in West London. To be honest, I've been to that stadium twice now, and I've enjoyed both visits because we've smashed them to bits in both games. But the corresponding fixture at St James's last season as well was a 1-0 win to us as well. I don't think we've actually lost to Brentford at all in any Premier League fixture.
You've jinxed it already with 3.5.
No. We're getting there.
So far.
I think at least in the last 4 Premier League fixtures we haven't lost. It could be even longer than that, considering.
Well, I do seem to remember a game away where Thomas Frank made quite a sarcastic comment saying, "Well, Newcastle have an £80 million striker," when he's buried one.
That would be the one.
Yeah, we do.
The season before, season before last, which was one of the ones I didn't go to actually. But so we have a 100% win record at the G-Tech Stadium in the Premier League.
You'll never see that.
And that comes on the back of having lost on our first ever visit to the stadium back in December 2020 in the League Cup, which I'm sure you all remember was a very depressing loss under the lights with nobody in the stadium.
It's a depressing time, to be honest.
Well, yeah, exactly. And then we're gonna start to see just how much Brentford have changed since that 4-2 win back in May, because since that game, Brentford are actually unbeaten in all 9 league and cup games at home. But they've failed to keep a clean sheet in any of those games. So as much as they have been dominant in those games at the G-Tech, they aren't capable of keeping a clean sheet. That Premier League home record is, and that's this season, of course, is actually unmatched by any other side in the Premier League. They've won 6 games and drawn once. And their tally of 22 goals in those games is also the top ranking stat in the division. Nobody else is close to them in that respect. Is just to follow up what you said earlier on, Andy, about their form. And it's funny, they've won 6 and drawn 1 so far at home this season, contrary to the 5. They'd only won 5 at home all of last season. So Thomas Frank's done a cracking job to turn things round there, and really concentrated on their home form this season. It's paid dividends. All-time record for Newcastle at Brentford. We just talked recently about having not lost there for a little while, certainly at the new ground, and including visits to both the new ground and the old one. There's 9 visits to Brentford with 6 wins and 3 losses. No draws. So who knows? Maybe that's going to finally happen this weekend.
Well, it's a bit of a immovable object against an unstoppable force, isn't it? In terms of like our recent record against Brentford and their current home record. Joe, they obviously lost Tony, and I think everyone just expected Brentford just to go into a complete slump, but they've come back, and there's other players for them have really stepped up. I'm thinking Visser and Boomo. They're just one of these teams where you look at them on paper and you're never really impressed, but then they just turn it on against teams.
They're a good team. Good team. Funny though, they looking at the stats, they're in the top 5 for both goals scored and goals conceded this season. So put it like that, proper Barclays, right? So actually, they've been entertaining, right, for better or for worse, right?
They probably don't get credit for being entertaining, really, but they are.
Yeah.
No, I mean they absolutely are, and they're putting teams to the sword. Like I said earlier, they're pressing high. Like I said, in Mbuemo and Visser, they're 2 very clinical players, and obviously sought after by a lot of teams, right? And for good reason. But you've got, I think, a good midfield as well. Is it Damsgaard as well? I think he's quite creative. He's doing quite well for them. So yeah, they're doing really well, all things considering. Like you say, with Tony leaving, I suppose it's a similar situation to an extent with Spurs and losing Harry Kane, where you lose maybe the talisman, the guy who's going to get you a lot of goals, but then that's when the rest of the team steps up and you find a different way to play. And Thomas Frank is a fantastic coach, so he's obviously doing good things with them. But having said that, they're conceding a lot of goals, as I said, and that I think lends itself to thinking if we can exploit spaces that they have at the back, then we could be in for quite a decent afternoon if we're careful and we're clinical. I think one of the things that we have been pretty critical about is the fact that we're not taking our chances away. And yeah, we did just score 3 against Liverpool, but let's be honest, lads, it should have been 5 or 6.
I think if we were recording this after the Crystal Palace game, we'd probably be saying, well, this is finally the time to get some goals. But obviously, we've had the Liverpool game, Daryl.
Andy, we've established that the West Ham and the Crystal Palace game didn't happen.
Yeah, actually, I don't know what I'm talking about.
Liverpool was the first game after the international break. That's all that happened.
I know. I mean, Brentford, they've been when you look at the results, they've been very similar to us in terms of like a big win, a big defeat, a big win, a bit of discontent, and then all of a sudden they pick it up again. But Daryl obviously coming off the back of a what could have been an amazing result and ended up just being a good result and a really encouraging performance. What do you want to see from the lads moving into this one?
I want to see exactly the same. A lot has been laid at the door about how we can suddenly build ourselves up to play against the big teams, but we need to be reaching those levels for every game, not just against the top 6 or whatever. We really need to be consistent in how we apply ourselves in games. We need to approach every game exactly the same. We need to come into it with those high intensity levels. We need to impose ourselves onto games. The one thing I would quickly come back to on Brentford as well is they've actually now set a record. They set it a few weeks ago now, where they've scored in the first couple of minutes of a number of games, and they now have I think they now have the Premier League record of all time.
I think it was 3 or 4 games in a row, wasn't it? And
then
I think after that they scored after 3 minutes, and everyone was like, we want the old Brentford back.
Exactly. And also just to mention as well, you talked about the likes of Visser and Burmo stepping up. I think Kevin Schade got a hat trick the other week. As well, so they are capable.
Against us, I think, as well. Maybe last season.
Yeah, he did, and they do have goals in their side, but again, for some reason, when it comes to Brentford in recent years, we seem to have their number. And I'm not trying to sound overly confident on that, but I think getting back to that initial point, if we can apply ourselves in that game on Saturday the way we did against Liverpool last night at the time of recording, then I don't think we'll have any problems because we are that good. And you just have to look back at some of the performances against Liverpool. Tonali in the middle of the park ran the show. Bruno playing a little bit further forward while he was probably feeling a little bit uncomfortable in that position. Came up with 2 assists. Exactly, yeah, and he came up with 2 assists. So there were positives to take from that. And like I say, the key thing is we have to think that the lads have to go out and apply themselves the way they did against Liverpool. Easy.
It's such a hard one, isn't it? Because we watch the Liverpool game and the Arsenal game, and then it just reminds you that we are still a mint team, and Eddie Howe is still the guy on the players' day, on the managers' day. We can do it against anyone, and that's the frustrating thing. The whole discourse across the whole fan base at the minute is, why can we have no shots on target against Palace? Why did we lose comfortably to West Ham, who are dog? They are absolutely dreadful,
Yeah.
on the verge of sacking the manager. And then we go to by far the best team in the league this season, and we absolutely had them on the ropes in the first half. It's just I don't get it. And I mean, Joe, what could you put your finger on what this is? Is it a player mentality issue? Is it an Eddie Howe only preparing for the big games issue, or is it just teams don't want to go at us unless they're the big boys?
Nope, I think it's just a simple. I think it's just a simple fact that we do not do well against teams who play a low block. Look at any fixture that we've had in the cups against a team of lower league opposition. Sunderland aside, because we're battered them.
Well, they tried to come at
Wimbledon.
us, and it
Yeah.
Well,
bottled
that's
it.
exactly it. They tried to come at us, and we exploited the space. But think
Yeah.
teams like Sheffield, teams like Wimbledon, what was it? Blackburn. We've played all
similar.
these teams, and they've dug deep. They've been physical, and they've been very solid. Now, the Premier League, obviously, the teams like Palace, the teams like not as much West Ham. I don't think they defended too deep, but like I don't know. We've seen a loads anyway. I'm not going to start naming all these games, but we play against these teams. They play a low block, and the problem is, I don't think that we quite have a solution to that. Most of our creativity comes out on the wings. We don't have a lot of creativity in the center of the field. You've got Tonali and Bruno, who are fantastic technical players, but rarely are they going to unlock a defense with a single pass. They rely on runners, the likes of Gordon, the likes of a Willock, and sometimes a Murphy. But when teams are playing so deep and they close the spaces off, it's not happening. And so a lot of the time what you find is the likes of Isak gets isolated in the middle, or he has to drop really deep and try and sort something out for himself, which means that he's out on he comes out wide and we don't have anyone in the center. So we really desperately need to find a way to figure that out. But as we alluded to earlier, I don't think Brentford's going to be that kind of team. They're doing really well. They're being quite expansive and they're trying to score goals. And that's why I think that we're actually going to see a bit of a basketball match at the weekend, as
It's a very different
opposed
sort of
to
prospect, isn't it? Because they're very direct. They're not the sort of team that will necessarily press high up the pitch and turn it over. They like to go along even without Tony. So it'll be an interesting one, definitely.
No, absolutely, and yeah, we need our midfield to be right on it, because when you have the likes of Vissa and Buemo who are going to be right up on our centre backs, I think you're going to need, probably, if Tonali plays in the 6, then you're going to need him to be almost not quite touch tight on the centre backs, but you're going to need him there to help support. And
he's looked class. I made a point to my dad at the last couple of games. He actually plays a pass first time. That seems like such an obvious thing to say, but like Bruno, as brilliant as he is, he always likes to take a touch, really draw a player in, and then nick it past him. Obviously, it worked for the first goal, getting around McAllister. But I mean, Daryl, we've obviously, the question forever has been, can Tonali and Bruno play it together? Have we now found the answer, do you think? Because they look good.
I think we sort of have, and I think it's still going to take a bit of time as well to make that relationship work in there and have them play together like that. Just to mention on the Tonali's first time passing, a lot of times against Liverpool, his quick reactions and quick passing got us out of tricky situations and just gave the players a bit of a chance to breathe and found space. I was watching in periods in that game where he would pick the ball. Well, the ball would be played into him in midfield, and he would just be like, he'd calmly just lay it off to like Cher, who was a centre back, or even to Tino on the wing there. And it just oozed his class, showed how classy he is on the ball. And he tried a couple of balls through to link up to the front men that didn't quite pay off. But I think with time, that when he builds those relationships as playing as part of the first team, then they'll get better. And he really did run the game against Liverpool, and I don't see any reason why he shouldn't be able to do the same against Brentford on Saturday. My problem would be is if we do need a player to unlock a defence, and you're right, we do need the likes of a Willock who can run and carry the ball. Even having Gordon or Barnes come inside and run, it's does it affect that midfield three in that way? Because that midfield three that we played against Liverpool with Tonali, Bruno, and Joe Linton is good for that kind of game because Joe Linton gives you that physical presence. But Joe Linton looked absolutely spent when he went off. And I wasn't surprised that he had
Although
to
I
go
will
off at that
say
point.
he gave me one of my favourite moments of the game that probably hasn't been talked about, which is right in front of where I sit, where Szoboszlai was trying to sort of saunter over to the ball and let it run out, and Joe Linton absolutely fucking wired him from behind. It was absolutely unreal. It was definitely a foul. Like, I don't know how it wasn't a foul. He just absolutely bulldozed him out of the way. It was
sent him flying to Whitley Bay, didn't he, man?
Yeah, it was insane.
That's the thing. Like Joe Linton, he's got some flaws in his game, but then he'll go and absolutely smash a kid and take us 60 yards up the pitch. So he's got so much quality, man. He's so
before,
physical.
I don't think there's any player, maybe in world football, that's maybe gone too far, who has that physicality with his ability as well. Because you look at someone like Adama Traore, who does he play for these days? I think he plays for.
Hey. You had to get it in.
I didn't even plan that. How good is that?
How long were you trying to shoehorn that one in?
You said you were going to mention that Fulham were playing, but it's fine. But no,
it might not be the last
like
time I see it.
Yeah, someone like Traore who plays for Fulham, he's got that physicality, the pace, but then he doesn't have that quality. But we see so often from Joe Linton, save for the second goal where he just handed them the ball and they ran up and scored. But yeah, he's one of those players where, similar to Gordon, he turns up against the big guys and he looks like a world beater. Then all of a sudden we watch him one week against another team and it's like, what are we doing with this midfield? It's really frustrating. But I think you're right, Daryl. I think the Tonali, Bruno picture looks a lot clearer than it maybe did. I know Eddie Howe made a comment in a press conference a couple of weeks ago where he said, Tonali can play that deeper role, but that means Bruno has to play more positionally, whatever that means. So I don't know whether there's just a lot more coaching needed for Bruno to pick up that position. Because you think about someone like Longstaff, that he's really good at finding those spaces just inside the winger and making those runs. Whereas I think when Bruno's played further forward, he's sometimes looked a bit lost. But against Liverpool, he found those little pockets, and I think we just need to see more of that, don't we?
Absolutely.
But like, I remember Tonali and Bruno kind of switching between that sort of 6 and 8 role. Like there were times when Tonali was going out wide. With Bruno, right? The thing that I think this season, I don't know if it's just this season, right? But I feel like more than ever, Bruno is carrying the ball and shielding it far better than, well, not far better than he used to, but I think he's just doing it far more effectively. He's the only player, I think, on that entire pitch where if he gets the ball, I have complete confidence that he's never losing it without drawing a foul. And I don't know if he's just becoming more used to doing that, but he's won us so many fouls. And
I put Joe Linton in that bracket as well on his day.
But Joe Linton just like slaps them and they go like 20 yards that way. Like Bruno shields it really well, and he's just obviously drawn a lot of these free kicks. It's just something I've noticed like recently. He seems to be doing a lot more. But between him and Tonali, like we really need them to be working well together, and they did. They did at the weekend. It's just how, like you say, how disciplined can they be, and how we saw with Tonali how creative he can be in the final third with that lovely little sort of shimmy that he did in the first minute to draw a shot, and Kelleher had to save it. We don't often see that, man. It was really, really nice to witness.
No, it was nice. It was nice to see it.
And I always just think back to his debut his debut this season against Forest, where he was playing in so many through balls and he was just running the show. So if we can get him back to that, man, that'd be sensational. I think we're close. I think we're close.
I think as well, that's the one area that we could do with improving as well, is the goals from midfield. We don't have enough. It's one thing that we're lacking.
Yep.
Bruno tried his best against Liverpool.
He did,
the worst shot I've ever seen. It was like a toddler kicked the ball, wasn't it?
Pressing X instead of B for shoot on FIFA. That's what that was.
Well, I do press X to shoot on FIFA, so I don't know what that says about me. I'm just absolutely wrong.
Check the settings.
Controls.
Elsewhere on the pitch, Daryl, obviously midfield we could talk about to death, so we won't. But I think the front three probably stays the same. I think Murphy had a good game, and then maybe would you make any changes in defence? There's been a specific question about Trippier maybe coming back in.
Yeah, I mean, we don't really know the nature of his absence against Liverpool, so my guess would be that Eddie Howe will just stick to that. Well, I think he'll just stick to the same 11, to be fair. The one thing that we also have to remember now is, much like we did for a large portion of last season, we're on yellow card watch now. So I think it's Joe
Yellow
Linton,
card
Dan
watch,
Burn.
new feature.
Well, we did it when Bruno was sitting on a yellow card away from a ban for 11 games last season. So I think it's Dan Burn and Joe Linton are both. Oh no, is it Fabian Schär? I think Fabian Schär and not Dan Burn. Fabian Schär and Joe Linton are both one yellow card away from suspension.
That's impressive, given that Fabian Schär had a red first game of the season. You missed the first, essentially
He's had a full season, hasn't he?
3-4 games.
Mind saying that they both managed to avoid getting one in the last couple of games now, because it's been since before the international break when they've been sitting on that one card away from the ban. So they're doing quite well.
So in terms of the team then, because that for me is the only two question marks. Do you keep Murphy in? Because I think he looked really good in direct. I think defensively helped a lot. He's obviously got massive limitations to his game, but I think just having someone who can strike the ball was really nice to see.
Yeah.
And I personally would like to see Trippier, if he is fit and available and there's nothing wrong mentally with him, I would love to see him come back, because I think, not to go into too much with Liverpool again, but they were a perfect example of how you break down a team that's camping the box. They swarmed the box. They had Trent came on and bombed down the right-hand side. You had 4 or 5 midfielders around the box, people making runs. And I think that's something that we need to learn how to do, is get Livramento and Hall further up the pitch, get runners beyond them. Because if you think about, in our sort of prime, if you can call it that, it was all about that Almiron Trippier connection, and it was basically unstoppable. I don't know how no one clued up to it, because it just used to do the same thing every time and it worked. So what do we think about that right back spot? Well, the whole right hand side, I suppose.
I personally would keep Tino in. I think him and Hall are developing a really good relationship on the opposite flanks. You know what Howe's like? He really doesn't enjoy changing the team too much, especially if it's gaining momentum. Tino's done out wrong. And I know what you say. I like Trippier. I like Trippier, but I would keep him in. I thought Hall did quite well on Wednesday. There were a couple of times he got caught out, but he obviously got told to get touch tight.
Yeah,
he got
told to get touch tight, and there were a couple of times, but you know what? He's doing so well.
He also did get a bit unlucky. There was a couple of times where Salah, it just bounced. The time he hit the bar, Hall actually got really close and did a decent and it just bounced through. But Salah's just one of those sorts of players.
I mean, in the first half, he didn't give Salah a sniff at all. He was tremendous. And I thought overall he was really, really good, except for the fact that he just happened to be involved in 2 of the goals that were conceded.
There's
sort of knocked it all down.
Few people to blame, though, wasn't there? You can't
pin
it on any one person.
I think,
but sorry, go on, Daryl.
I think as well, the reason people have got issues with Tino from Wednesday night is the fact, and I don't want to make him the scapegoat here, but I thought there were a few times where Jacob Murphy had tucked inside, so Tino didn't really have an outlet down the wing, and he didn't have anyone to maybe do a quick 1-2 with, so that he could then bomb on down the wing, because he didn't have any support in front of him.
Well, when you look at the opposition, will help him, because clearly the defenders had to be a bit more conservative against Liverpool. It's just the nature of playing Liverpool.
Absolutely.
I think that their left hand side it's obviously it's not Gakpo and Robertson. It is weaker. So hopefully we can see more from Tino down that side. So I think we're probably all in agreement. Lineup stays the same.
Pretty much, yeah. Absolutely.
Actually, I think we might see Willock come back in, and I think we might see Joe Linton on the left hand side and Gordon on the right.
Yeah,
he might want that running from Willock, and Murphy did good, but he ran himself ragged, and during a midweek game, probably might want to rest him.
That might happen. I do just feel a bit sorry for Gordon sometimes, because his position is so tenuous in this system. If there's any kind of issue, he always has to go and move to the right or move down the middle. And he had a really good game against Liverpool. I mean, he managed to take a full haymaker from Van Dijk, and he was all right. And obviously he fluffed one chance. He's almost like a bit of a Pat BC, saying that when he has loads of time he can't finish, but if he's got a nice instinctive finish, he's pretty good. But so I'd like to stay the same for what it's worth. I'm being devil's advocate, really. I think we should keep it the same. But someone like this game's maybe better for someone like Willock, because he's maybe got got more of a chance on the break, and he's got those legs, and then you've got better options on the bench as well. But
he's done well
I'm
at the
conscious.
G-Tech in the past, though.
Yeah, that's very true, and I think this time, in the past we've seen him and Joe Linton link up really well on the left. Him and Isak have obviously got a really good relationship, so we're just, the relationships in the team will ebb and flow as the season goes on as well. We've got Wilson coming back as well. Barnes, who, I was having a debate with my mates before about Barnes. He's obviously not been an amazing signing, but he has single-handedly won us a couple of games as well. He is that player who can just turn it on its head, and it's maybe going to be one of these games if it is a bit of a basketball match that you bring him on and he gets you that finish you need. But
whether he likes it or not, he's a super sub right now. Whether he likes the term or not,
I think
he
just
scored for Longstaff as well. Sorry, go.
No, go on. You go first.
Any room for Longstaff? I wouldn't be surprised to see him in, just with the fact that we had a midweek game and he didn't play much. So could see him back in. But having said that, I really want to see this Tonali and Bruno relationship continue. I think the more games you have with them,
Bruno,
the more
Joe.
it'll work.
Yeah. Absolutely. So just to add, Barnes scored in the game at Brent. Like, he scored in the game in the last season, so he does have a nice little habit of scoring down there.
I remember nothing about that. Anyway, we've waited long enough, Daryl. It's time. I don't see a button down the side for a little jingle about Ref Watch, but you can just take it away.
Fair enough. Man in the middle for the game on Saturday will be Tim Robinson from Sussex. It's his first NUFC game of the season. It seems to be becoming a common occurrence in recent weeks where we're getting guys' first games of the season. That was the same
last week, wasn't it? And that went well.
And the week before, I think. But he did 4 games with us last season. 3 pretty decent home wins. You had a 4-0 against Palace, 3-0 against Wolves, and a 4-0 against Spurs. And we'll say it quietly, but the 3-0 loss at Everton. His record in the Premier League this season is 6 games. He's issued 36 yellows and 1 red in those 6 games. And VAR, again, he seems to be cropping up quite a lot recently. It's Jared Gillett, from our friend from Australia. It's his 4th game of the season on VAR. And that comes after the home game against Arsenal and away games against Chelsea and Palace.
Right. And we'll be doing a clock watch this time to see when they blow for full time after that shambles.
Exactly, yeah.
Game when the ball
don't get me started on that.
But again, this isn't a Liverpool reaction, but we are still reacting.
It can be. We're going to have a second one.
It's so close to the bone, and I'm tired. I'm just like, that's all I can think about. Anyway, I suppose we should actually predict the game, since this is a match prediction / preview.
Yeah.
I'm the host, so I can decide who goes first. This is great, because normally Scott bins it off onto me, and I have to look like an idiot. So we'll go to whoever joined the recording the latest, which was Daryl.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough. You know, it is. All day I've been thinking I'll take a draw, but I can't look past the record that we have down there, and it's been a tremendous record. And we mentioned it earlier. I think they will come at us, and that's going to be to our advantage. So I'm going to say a 2-1 win to Newcastle. Isak again, Gordon again, bish bash bosh.
Love that.
Easily.
Joe.
I don't think this game's going to be a draw. I think it's going to be way too open for that. End-to-end basketball game, 3-2 win.
I can't take another basketball game. That Liverpool game was a stress.
I think it'll be one of us. We'll go like 3-1 up, and then they'll just score. I think that's what happened like last season, wasn't it? We
were 3-1 up at one point, and then it was 3-2.
I reckon it'll be something very similar. You know, I think. And
there was one of the games where Tony had 2 penalty. Nick Pope saved a Tony penalty, and the Earth stopped spinning on its axis.
that was the 2-1 season before last, I think.
Was it right?
The £80 million striker jibe.
Go on, Joe. Who's scoring?
Who's scoring? Right. Bruno's had a bit of a look down there, hasn't he? So we'll say Bruno, we'll say Isak, and you know what? Let's go Tonali. Let's get that partnership ebbing in full flow.
When Tonali finally scores again, the away end's going to be unreal. It's going to be class.
What better place to do it without a win down at Brentford, mind?
Oh,
Yeah.
I know.
No
It's
better.
lush.
It's a great little way in.
But I think it'll be a good game. I think it'll be a good game, though. I
Mhm.
really do. And
I
Brentford will,
yeah.
put us to the sword. But I think we'll just
I
edge it.
I agree with both. Yeah, I think this is going to be another belting game. Maybe not a first on match of the day again this time because, as we've said, both mid-table at the moment, but the league's so compact at the minute. I think I think this is a real opportunity for us to go on a bit of a run. I think if we beat Liverpool, I'd say a draw there is a good result. But I've got that niggling feeling where I really think we could have beat that Liverpool team. So I think the team will have the bit between the teeth to try and get a really positive result. So then when we go into this festive period, we're only then a couple of wins away from really getting up into those top places. So I'm going to agree with you both. I'm going to say slightly less dramatic than Joe's prediction. I'm going to say 2-1 win. And I think it will be one of these where it's a 0-0 at half time and there'll be a bit of chaos at the start of the second half. I'm going to go Isak for Thomas Frank to cry about his price tag again, and then we'll give it. Do you know what? We'll give Willock a goal. He's due one, isn't he? We'll give him a goal.
Happy days.
Yeah, but I think that'll do us.
Lush.
I'm just going to say that we've managed to do a recording without Scott. Do we even need him?
You've
Do you know what I mean?
managed to sort of host as well, mate. So well done.
Hey, do you know what? I'm not just a pretty face. What can I say? No, I'm not that arrogant. Anyway, yeah, that's the prediction. I think last time everyone slated us for being negative against the best team in Europe. So how about a bit of positivity for a change? Here we are,
Why not?
all
Eh?
three of us with a win. Can't wait for the egg on the
We're,
face
we're
next week. We're
deluded
all
now,
back
you
to
know.
being
We're just
depressed.
going to be deluded.
I know.
That's what it is.
I know. Sometimes I think it's
Let's-
easier to predict draws every week, and then you can just sit on the fence the whole time.
Yeah, that's boring, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you did that, you'd be
No.
on 38 points for the season. You'd actually nowadays that'd probably get you mid-table.
I would. Well, obviously, if you're watching this or having to listen to this, let us know what you think. You might think that we're three idiots, but hopefully, three idiots that have kept you entertained and offered you a decent bit of insight on Newcastle. If you like the video, give it a like. Scott then usually says, if you don't like it, give it a dislike. Don't be doing that. Just like it because
Don't do
we're
that,
all
man.
right.
Come
And if
on.
you made it this far, you probably liked it. Otherwise, you're just torturing yourself for no reason.
Any,
Leave a comment.
I'll interrupt you there.
Yeah.
And any Brentford fans watching, please let us know if we're being idiots or if we have made some valid points, and let us know what you think will happen.
Yeah, we're getting.
Shout your
It's
mates.
quite good to get the away fans' opinions. I find that a lot of away fans like to actually watch these things and have a bit of an insight. So hopefully we haven't butchered any pronunciations or give your team no credit at all because we get accused of that sometimes as well. But we're not Brentford fans. We don't really know. We're just sort of basing it on what we've seen and done a bit of research.
We'll do
So
our best.
don't give us too much grief. But yeah, if you've enjoyed it, give it a like, leave a comment, give us a rating on Spotify or Apple or whatever, and get us in your Spotify wraps for next year, please. There's also a membership program which you can join as a member from $2.99 a month. Get loads of free content. Well, I say free. I've just said it's $2.99 a month. Extra content. You know what I mean? Just do it. It's great. You get more idiots, not just us three. So give that a go as well. But yeah, hope you enjoyed. Take care, everyone. See you for the next one.